You're listening to the Femtrepreneur Show, and this is episode 7. In this episode, we're chatting with Adrienne Dorison of adriennedorison.com, and we're talking all about how to have a successful business and sell out your courses even when you have a tiny, tiny list. You're also going to learn how Adrienne paid off her debt and quit her day job to go full-time in her business. Hey guys, this is Mariah.
And I'm Megan Mins, and we are so excited for you to hear this interview. Adrienne is a business consultant who helps experts and entrepreneurs get better results in less time, which I love. And she is definitely a thought leader in the millennial entrepreneurial space. She also has her own podcast, which you should definitely check out after you listen to this episode. It's called The School of Self-Mastery. And she's also been featured in publications like Business Insider, Time, The Huffington Post, and more. And even better, she also has a free cheat sheet to help you make the most of a small list. So definitely stay tuned towards the end where you're going to find out how to get that. So let's dig in.
Hey, Adrienne. We're so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on the Femtrepreneur Show.
I am pumped to be here. Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for giving us your time. So we've already kind of told people a little bit about who you are and what you do. But in your own words, tell us who you are, what you do, what your products and your business is all about, and all that kind of stuff so that we can get a feel for what you are. What you are. What you are. About? Who you are. What you do.
What you are.
What are you, Adrienne?
What am I? That's a good question. Let me answer that one for you. I am someone who works with small businesses, entrepreneurs as a consultant. I have a corporate background that I bring my expertise on, like how to get your business more lean. So like how we can do less and get better results. And I did that in my corporate job. And now I bring that to entrepreneurs because I think that they actually probably need it more than corporations do. So I kind of like break that down in a much simpler way for entrepreneurs. And I do that through courses and one-on-one consulting. And I have a podcast, so tons of free content and ways, like I'm always looking for the way that we can do less and get better results is kind of my whole jam, which could be seen as lazy, but I just think it's really efficient and great. So I don't do really anything without, making sure that it's the least possible resistance to get to where I want to go.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm a dog mom and, I CrossFit. And,
tell us about the kind of dog you have, because I love dogs.
He's dreamy. He's a Bernese mountain dog. That's like my main man.
So big and fluffy.
He's 100 pounds of pure love and fluff, and there's fur balls everywhere all over this house. And then we have a terrier mix too, and she's our wild child for sure, and she's like 40 pounds of feisty energy, and she beats the big one up. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, terriers can get crazy. So you were saying that you do things lean and mean, which I love. Yeah. And I think it's one of the things that Megan and I have been talking about a lot is like this idea of like, how can you do like the very least and still get good results? And I don't think it's lazy. And we talk about this all the time. We feel like we have to defend ourselves because we're like, guys, we're not lazy. This is efficient. This is smart.
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of people glorify busyness, right? Or they think that if they're doing work, then that's the goal, right? But that's not the goal. The goal is actually to do whatever amount of hours of work that you want to do. Like there's nothing wrong with working 10 hours a day if that's what you want, but I still want you to be like uber productive and make sure that what you're doing is actually getting you results during those hours versus just tricking yourself into thinking that you're doing things that are getting you results when they're not. And then you just end up like working tons of hours and feeling really drained and overwhelmed because you're like, I'm working so much. Why am I not getting any results? Mm-hmm. And that's what I see like the most happening is like people are working a lot. It's not that people are lazy. Like my ideal clients specifically, the people that I work with, like it's not that they're afraid of hard work. Like they're willing to do the hard work. They just don't know what to be working on, or they're like working on all the things, which is not getting them results.
Yeah. It sounds like they are working super hard, but it's just like not in the right way and not on the right things.
Yeah. I tell people like effort does not equal progress. Right. So
I love that.
We want progress, and just because you're putting in effort does not mean that you're going to have progress, which can be really defeating. That's when people are like, I'm working so hard. Like this should be working. And then their self-doubt starts to increase, their confidence starts to decrease, and they either quit or they get really frustrated and they take it out on their husband or their,
This
like
is
other
actually
people.
really timely because we've talked to a lot of our students and clients in the last couple of weeks who have been working really hard on something that isn't taking off. Like we've been getting this question a couple of times from our students in our courses saying like, I feel like I'm working so hard and yet my list is still, growing by 10 people a week. Or I feel like I'm doing so much and not a lot of people are signing up for my webinars, or not a lot of people bought my course, but I feel like I worked so hard. What do you tell people? What do you tell your clients? Like, how do you kind of break it to them that like maybe what you're doing isn't working? And then how do you help them? Like, how can we, especially us, I mean, this is again a self-serving question,
Totally.
but like, how can we help people who feel like they're just spinning their wheels, they're working, running on the hamster wheel, but like it's not actually doing
anything and I think that that's like a big frustration. And so some of the things, I just tell it like it is. I'm very direct. So if someone's not getting results, I'm like, it's probably because you're working on the wrong stuff. Okay. So let's do a complete audit of where you're spending your time and what your goals are. So I think that a lot of times people end up working on things that either aren't actually related to the goal that they have in mind, or they're kind of so 40% of our day is run by unconscious habits. So things that you are not even aware that you're doing. So if I can get someone to do a time sheet, which can be a little bit tedious at first, but it's going to give you like so much clarity on where your time is actually going, because a lot of times it's like into a black hole, right? Where you're focused on things that if you look at like the task that you just completed, maybe you worked on a project, or maybe you were setting up a webinar when your goal is to start a podcast. And it's like, well, why did you do that? Right. So I get really clear on number one, what are your goals? And then number two, can we do a time tracker for like 3 days for you to be like really diligent, like every few hours, go back and just write down what did you do over those hours and how are they directly related to that end goal? Because people do feel, I think, more important when they are busy. And so they end up like working on things that really, or they feel like they have to, right? I'm using air quotes if you're not watching this video, right? They feel like they have to. So they're like, oh, I'm supposed to do this, or I should be doing this, or I have to do this, when I would really like to challenge that thought for them if that's not related to their end goal. So it can be uncomfortable, the work that we do, when telling people like, okay, well, if this is your main goal and these are the things you're working on, you cannot expect to get that result because you're not working on the things that are actually going to get you there. So it's really about doing that audit and getting really clear and conscious about how we spend our time, and really intentional, so that they are focused on the right things. And that will be uncomfortable at first, because like even one of the most simple things is like having 10 tabs open on your browser and going back and forth. And you can lose like up to 80% of your time just by context switching. So going from like one task to another, and you think you're being really productive because you think you're really great at multitasking, but you're not. And it will take time.
Do this. This is one of my weaknesses.
I understand this very much.
We all do. And it will take time to break that habit. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but if you could just get better at it, because you're probably doing it even unconsciously, right? Like you're just going from one thing to the next because you're like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this. And so you open all the tabs and try to do them all at once. And it's costing you a lot of energy and brain power and time. So even like looking at those things when your clients are saying, hey, I'm not getting the results that I want, but I'm working a lot, then we really need to understand, well, what is it that you're working on? And let's just be really honest with ourselves. So sometimes people don't want to be honest with themselves.
You got to get real. That's like, we're always saying this on the podcast, like we're going to get real, and you need to get real with yourself. Like you can't say, I mean, we see this all the time with like course, with people who come to us, they come into our courses, they want to create their own courses and online programs, but they are like, working all the time on like getting clients, because that might be their existing business model. They want to switch to the course model, but they're like spending all their time getting clients and working with clients. And like, they keep talking about like, I wish I had launched. Why is this taking me so long? And it's like, you got to get real with yourself, right? Like you have to do check-ins with yourself and be really honest. And that's so hard.
I think it is really hard, but if you know, like, so I'll relate this to CrossFit because I'm like a CrossFitter, right? And like in the bathroom, they have these like signs of like the rules of CrossFit. And like one
Ooh.
of the rules of CrossFit is you have to no rep, right? So if you do a squat and it's not really a full squat, don't count it as a squat
Mm.
because it's not actually a squat. And the only person that you're cheating is yourself.
Yep.
Right?
So
Because
true.
no one else in the room, in the CrossFit room, really cares if you do the squat or not, right? Like, who are you there for? You're there for yourself. You're not there to cheat yourself. And the same thing is
Mhm.
true in business. Like, who are you trying to impress by saying, oh, I did all this stuff today, or not being honest with what you're working on and what you really want, right? Like, you're self-sabotaging there. And that's something that, like, self-sabotage is real and
Mhm.
sometimes a subconscious behavior because you're afraid of the course or you're afraid to let go of the one-on-one clients or something like that, you know?
Actually, Megan and I talked about that recently. I don't know if it was in an episode or if it was like an after episode where we were just still talking. And it was that I think, Megan, were you saying that you had taken so long to launch your first course and a lot of that was just like self-sabotage and fear and like you kept saying that you wanted a successful course, but you were like putting it off for no reason, no real reason?
Oh yeah, and sorry if you hear my dogs barking in the background. Someone knocked on our door, so they won't.
We all love dogs.
Okay,
Here.
well
Dog
they're
family.
barking. Yeah, I can't remember where we were talking about either. I think it was on an episode, but I launched my first course over a year ago, and it was just dragging on. Like they say, a task takes up as much time as you give it, and I was definitely giving it as much time as I needed, and eventually I did launch. It was great, but it was like, man, I should have done this sooner. I should have just been decisive and taken those risks, and it didn't need to take as long as it took.
Especially when you start seeing results. Like when you actually, imagine the thing is that people wait until like it's like, and then they're like, oh, why did I wait so long? I wish I hadn't waited so long, especially with like, launching to at whatever size, later on we're going to talk about launching with a small list. And
Mhm.
people are like waiting and they're like, oh, I wish I had just done it sooner because I would have already been making money. And it's like,
Yeah.
same with Megan. Megan's course was making amazing passive income. And it's like, if I had done this 2 months ago, I would have had 2 more months of passive income already happening.
Well, and your list does grow when you launch something. So it's like just the act of launching grew my list more than I ever expected. And it was like, well, had I known, had I realized.
Let's take it back because I want to start from the beginning and I want to know, Adrienne, why did you start your business? And then what the transition was like for you from corporate life to your own full-time entrepreneurship, and why did you start and what was that transition like?
Yeah, so I started because I felt really creatively suffocated in my job. Like I worked in a corporate role where I had, these projects that I was running, leading these projects, trying to innovate and use the systems and the approach that we were meant to be using. And we would run it up the ladder, of course, and people would be like, oh, we're not really interested in change. And I was like, well, then why do you have me as like a change agent? Like
Yeah.
I'm here to literally create continuous improvement on your, in your company. And it was really frustrating to like continue to get to that point and feel like the company culture didn't want to make those changes that we had. So I'm like an innovator and I felt really creatively suffocated. I actually didn't intend to ever leave the job. I just started a blog about like personal development and leadership. And I was like writing like from a personal perspective about leadership and like things like, the 6 lessons my dog taught me about leadership. So like,
Is it Adrienne? Now, was that blog originally AdrienneDorison.com?
the blog originally was leanandlead.com,
Oh,
actually.
I love that. That's good.
Because it was like lean, right? Like leaning
Yeah.
the business and the systems, and then leadership development as well. And then I later rebranded it into adriennedorison.com because I don't know, because I wanted to have more flexibility
Yeah.
and per the advice of other people. But I started that blog and got some response from people and they were like, oh, do you do like, consulting or do this one-on-one? And I was like,
No, I didn't even ever, actually, I didn't even ever think of that. I was
Yeah.
like, I never even thought that this could be like be a business. I was just doing this because I really wanted to. And so from there, I started doing like free sessions with people and seeing if I even liked this, because I think one of the things that happens a lot when you're starting a business is you love it in theory,
Yep.
but not in practice. so,
Yes.
so I started practicing, right? I started practicing to make
You were
sure before
smart to do that. Not a lot of people have that foresight to be like, I wonder if this is
I
everything it's cracked
actually,
up to be.
I wonder if I actually like doing this
Can
or
you
if I
tell
just
us too,
like
like
it.
when was this? Like what year are we talking?
Yeah, so the blog started at the end of 2014,
Okay.
and then the business started. I started like talking to people one on one in January of 2015. And then I started making money by February of 2015. So then I started asking for dollars for what I was doing, but this was all on the side of my corporate job still. So I was still in my corporate job all the way until June of 2015. So for the first 6 months of my business, I was side hustling on this business and I paid off all my debt. So it was really important to me to like pay off all my student debt before I left the job. So I paid off about $48,000 in those 6 months
That's
from,
amazing.
yeah, from like January to the end of May.
That is amazing.
And it was
And
because
that's
I
with
got
a
really
side
aggressive.
hustle.
Yeah, with a side hustle.
And was the money that you were paying down the debt with, and I think so many of our readers are in this situation. They have debt, they have student debt, they have credit card debt, whatever it is. A lot of people are in that situation. Were you just putting all the money you were making from your business into the debt while you still had the day job and just socking it away so that you could make a dent there? Or how did
Yeah,
you do it?
so I got really aggressive with like my budgeting plan, right? So even like I was putting some of my corporate income on there and then everything from the side business, which it would have been really tempting to like keep and play with some of that money,
Yep.
right? Because I'm making like $15,000 a month. That's on some of those months.
Mm-hmm.
But I put it all towards that debt just because I was like, this is the ticket to me being able to leave my job and not be stressed about money, or like I wanted my expenses to be as low as possible when I left that corporate job. So I, put some of the corporate income and then all of the side hustle business income. I also like sold some things. Like I sold like some furniture. I sold my TV because I was like, I don't watch TV. And then I just wanted to get that debt removed as fast as possible. So I did that. I finished my last payment at the end of May. And then funny story, one of my VPs called me at like, I think it was probably the beginning of June. They had found one of my blog posts because I was never hiding my blog at all. I was very visible with my business from day one, just knowing that if I wasn't visible, that was going to be riskier to my business. And my end goal was to run my business, right? So I think a lot of people who are in day jobs are fearful, like, oh, what if someone finds out? What if someone finds out? I'm like, well, if your goal is to get out, then you have to be visible.
Yeah.
So,
don't like self-sabotage because of that. It's like the whole reason is to get out of that place. Like why do you care?
Right. Why do you care? And like, sure, it might be scary and the universe might give you a push sooner than you're ready, but you have like,
is that what happened?
Yeah. So I had just like, luckily I had just paid off the debt and I did like my thing. We'll always make excuses of like why we should stay a little bit longer, why I needed, more in my savings account. So I was, I had no plans of like when exactly I was going to leave. But then I got a call from my VP and he was like, oh, he called me. He's like, shooting the shit for a few minutes. And then he was like, we found your blog post about like why you still need your day job. That was my post. Why you need your day job when you're growing this side business, because it was really it was my investor, so to speak, right? Like my day job was the investor in my business.
Yeah.
Allowing me to do what I was doing. And so kind of at that point, I was like, I had to make a decision. I was like, all right, well, I was planning to leave anyways, so I will leave. And I left at the end of June of 2015. And so then I went full time right after July 4th weekend of last year. So when we're recording this, like about 18, 19 months ago, I started, and then about 13 months ago, full time.
That's awesome. So let's talk about like it's like, oh, I didn't have a business, I had a blog, and then I had $15,000 months. So let's talk about like the middle there, because how did you, what was the first program that you ever made? How did you launch it? Like how big? We want to know like list size, price point, what was it? How's it structured? How did you start making that money? I mean, that's impressive. That's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
So I started with a couple one-on-one clients because I knew, so one thing I knew because of the side hustle thing was that my time was really limited.
Mhm.
So if I wanted to make more money, I was like, I'm going to do a group program. I'm going to do a course. And a lot of people were like, you shouldn't do that until you work with a lot of people one-on-one. And I was
Ugh,
like,
I hate that advice.
sorry. I was like, this is what's going to help me leverage my time better.
So
So,
smart.
in February, I launched a challenge. That was my first like opt-in. I really was just, reaching out to people one-on-one, like, hey, get on the phone with me before that and selling them into my one-on-one. So
Mhm.
I had like two one-on-one clients at that point. But I had talked to a bunch of people on the phone for like individual sessions
Yeah.
by that time. And then I launched a challenge, which was a 10-day challenge, how to build your business in 20 minutes a day. So I knew that my expertise was how to get people to be more productive and be more efficient with their time and get better results in that time frame regardless of what they were working on. So I launched like that challenge with that point of marketing
Mhm.
and and it was just all organic marketing in Facebook groups and on Instagram and asking people to share it for me.
Yep.
And on my personal Facebook page. And I got 234 people. That was like the first list growing thing that I had done. So it was
That's awesome.
234 people in that challenge. And I opened a Facebook group to start that challenge.
Mhm.
So I had them like funneling into the Facebook group as well because I wanted to engage with them even more. And from there, I did the 10-day challenge to these 234 people. I had a ton of engagement over the 10 days. And I think part of the uh really good thing at my newbieism was that I was really naive to like average conversion rates or whatever. Like I was just like, I don't know, I just want some people in this course and I wanted 20 people. So the program was called Corporate to Called. And it was a course to take people from like a corporate space and get them better results in what their calling or their business, their purpose driven thing. So it was an 8-week course that I was going to be teaching live the first
Mhm.
time around.
Smart.
And yep. And I think people should teach live the first time
Absolutely.
always, like no matter how long, because you're going to get so much good feedback too about like what worked and what didn't work. And
Yeah. And
so
it's I mean, not that it's easy. It's not, nothing's easy, but it's a nice way to like space out the content creation over 8 weeks and be like, I'm teaching it live on purpose instead of like, oh my God, I have to release like all these modules all at once. And it's so overwhelming when you're first starting out and first launching.
yeah. And I think one of the other like really great things about teaching it live is that you're actually pre-selling the offer. So you're really
Yes.
making sure that people want this thing
Mhm.
before you spend tons of hours and hours going and creating it, which is I see a ton of people
I know.
wasting months like holing up in their basement creating content, and then when they release it no one wants it because I'm like,
know.
you created the wrong thing.
Yeah. And you didn't like get feedback throughout the whole process. Like we always tell people, some people don't, I mean, we have plenty of colleagues and, people that we know and friends that completely disagree with us. They think that it's crazy, that it's, bad. Like I can't believe you guys pre-sell things before you make them. And I cannot, and unfortunately, a lot of those people are people who they end up not making,
What
they've
they wanted.
invested,
Yeah.
$20,000 making a program that no one buys. So it's really, I think if anything, it's dangerous to not do the pre-selling part. And I definitely feel super strongly about that because I've seen people burned by the advice of, oh, make sure your product is perfect and don't start talking about it until it's all done.
Mm.
Oy.
And I think like, especially as we're going to start talking about like small lists, right? Like my list was 234 people, and people out there that if they have a small list, you probably don't have the cash flow to invest 2 months into creating this thing if no one's even going to buy it, right? So and that's like part of my laziness. I'm like, don't create anything
I
until
know.
people pay you for it, and then
Yeah.
go create it and make it rock solid based on what they want. And I think that there's also this psychology of when they can give you some, here's what, so one of the programs that I launched later on that year was a sales class, and we talked all about selling and how to be better at selling, et cetera. And I asked for people's buy-in, I asked for their feedback before I even created the final structure of the program. And so they got an opportunity to tell me, I said, here's what I'm thinking. Tell me what else you would want included.
Yep.
And I got to structure it exactly the way that they wanted it. And that created buy-in for them. So there's this psychology of, oh, I'm helping Adrienne create this program. It's perfect for me, right? So it's like,
Yes.
pre-sell these things so that you can make them and cater them specifically to what your people want, so that you're not wasting any time, energy, or,
It fits in
potential.
so well to like the lean, philosophy that you have. And it's really like living that. And I think everyone should do that. So with this first launch, you said that you were kind of naive about the conversion rates. You didn't really know like what the standards were. So what ended up happening with 234 people on your list? And how did you transition from free challenge to paid course?
Yeah. So free challenge, being super engaged. The course was $1,000. So it was a fairly high price point for my first course.
Yeah. How did you, I mean, like, I have so many questions because I just think that you did everything with such confidence. And I think that's something that a lot of people be inspired by and learn from. How did you so many of our students are just like, and our readers and our listeners are like, oh my God, $1,000 on my first course. I could never. Like, who am I to do that? But how did you have the confidence and, know that it was going to be that valuable? What advice would you give to someone who's like struggling to charge $50 for their first program?
Yeah. So I think confidence is so key, and you have to feel really comfortable with your price point. You have to believe in what you do. And so one of the things is you have to know that you have a specific expertise. And if you're not sure of that, then you need to go out there and do some free or lower price sessions, or, a beta. Like, this kind of was a beta, right? Because I had never run it before. And I was doing it live. So I knew that added some value, that they were going to get like tons of direct feedback from me. I also threw in a one-on-one session with me. So I was trying to make sure that the value that I was delivering was going to be way more than the cost or the investment of the program. And I think that's key, especially in the beginning, as you start to, develop. And I still preach this today and do this today in my own business. Like, you want to like 10x the value based on the cost. And if you can't do that, if you don't feel confident in that, then yes, lower the price until you do feel that. But like, partly cost and investment pricing is based on your confidence level, right? So how do you feel about the price? Can you say the price out loud? Can you confidently, affirm for someone that they're going to get results if they show up and do the work? And I knew that the content would be rock solid because I knew my expertise. So if you're unsure of that, go out and talk to people and serve them and get them some results. And that's what I did during the first 2 months of my business. Is I worked for free for people until I built that confidence. Because in the beginning, I was like, can I charge anything for this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. And whether you do that through calls or blogs or podcasts or a Facebook group or like whatever medium you choose, I feel like if you're out there giving away the best content you possibly can for free for like a little while, it really comes back to you in spades. And once you start getting feedback from people being like, okay, I took that tip that you gave me for free and I just made $1,000 this weekend. I feel like you get to the point where you're like, okay, and it doesn't have to be like a monetary thing. I mean, depending on your niche, you might be like, I gave this person a tip and she was able to go out and buy a new wardrobe this weekend. And she said that she was struggling with her personal style for 10 years. And after you get a couple, it doesn't have to be a lot. You might get like 2 or 3 people that are like, this helped me. And then you'll have the confidence to go forward with anything that costs money.
Totally. And I think that that's going to start I call it a confidence account. You'll start building your confidence account. You want to keep stashing confidence in there and going back to those testimonials when you get low, because we all get low on certain
Yeah.
days and times. And we're like, why am I doing this? Why do you people pay me anyways? Right. So going back to those things and, giving and serving up your best stuff. I think you should not feel scared or like scarce with content or knowledge, especially
Yeah.
in the beginning, because you really do need to. And I find that people in the beginning are always asking that question, like, how much should I give away for free versus what I should put in my course? Like, that's like one of the top questions I get. I don't know about you guys.
Yes, every single day.
I'm like, put your best stuff out there for free, because people need to get a result for free before they're going to pay to work with you. So you need to put some really good free content out there.
And like this, there's just, you're not going to stand out if you don't. The thing is that like no one, and I always tell people, like, no one will know how smart you are if you're stingy with what you know. And you basically have like this one chance, this impression to like prove that you're smart. Yep. And if you hold back, you're actually like doing yourself a disservice and making yourself look like not knowledgeable about something, because you're like, oh, well, I saved all the good stuff for the paid content. Don't do it.
No, because I think that if people can get a result from my free content, like, go for it. I tell people all the time, like, if you don't have to pay me, like, if you could go through all my podcast episodes and all my free content, you could probably build your business and really do it very efficiently and get better results and be more efficient with your time. Like, you could get really great results, but that investment, like, there are certain, group of people who do want to invest in themselves, who do want to go the extra mile. And that is what your paid products are for. And they're not going to be disappointed in your paid products if they love your free stuff and you're putting just as much energy into that. So I think that that's, that's just for a different breed of human that wants to make that investment in themselves. But
and people know for themselves, like, I'm not going to take action if I don't have some skin in the game. Like, I'm not going to take action on a free ebook. You know what I mean? Like, and when someone knows that about themselves and they want the result badly, they will happily invest in order to get that kick in the butt. So I interrupted you because I started asking you about how you confidently charged $1,000. So how did you transition from the paid, the free challenge into a paid course, and what the result was? And then we'll get into all the sort of small little list leverage, which I'm excited about.
Cool. So from free, so we went from challenge to get as many people on the phone as possible. So I was offering like free, sessions to get people on the phone, either solve a problem for them, or if they already knew that they were interested in the program, I would happily help them make a decision one way or another, whether or not it was a good fit. So I always like preface my sales calls with like, it's a sales conversation, but I want to help you make the best decision for you. And sometimes that is not me or my program, right? So they could get on the phone with me after. So I just really tried to get as many people on the phone as possible, because I knew at that point, they would connect with me, they would like me, they would trust me if it was a good fit, and then they would be in my program. And so from there, I had 15 people join that program. So that was like my $15,000 month that I had, because it was $1,000 price point. 15 people joined from a 234 person list, which is like way above average conversion rate.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't know. And then afterwards, one of my friends who had been, around in the industry longer, she was like, that I didn't like tell you this, but that was like absolutely insane that you had 15 people join. And I was like, oh, well, thanks for not telling me, because I think like part of my persistence and like not giving up and sending emails all the way to the last day and getting people on the phone all the way to the last day of the cart, and people buying at the last minute, which they still do, right? Like they always do. Not giving up was like, I fully believed in the program and my ability to, work with these people and get them better results. So I pushed all the way to the end, which I always tell people is super important, because like 50% of your buyers sometimes come on the last day, which I don't know if you're out there listening and you're on the fence about a program, like, why do you guys wait so long? But
yeah, what's wrong with you guys?
What is wrong?
I mean, I do it too, and like it's like I think it's true. Like if you're the person launching the course and you're like, I mean, I've had people tell me, I've had feelings of like underachievement and disappointment literally until the last half day of the launch, and 50% of the sales come in that day. Like it is like a multiple 6-figure day, and it's ridiculous because I'll be like feeling a certain way and everyone will just keep telling me like, you can't judge it.
Not
Don't
over.
call it, you know
Not
what I mean? It's
over.
not over. Don't call it a failure until it's done. And then I'm always somehow, 65 launches later in my business, over the last like 4.5 years, I still feel so anxious until that last hour. And then it's like, oh, okay, we hit all our goals and we're fine.
I know.
So
And I
if
think
you're like getting anxious, I mean, so many people, they see the dip in the middle of a launch, in the middle of a cart open, and they want to stop. Their
give up,
instinct is to be like, I don't want to send any more emails. I don't know what's happening. It's clearly not, it's not going to hit the goal I set. Like, what's happening? And they back off instead of just being like, this is how it goes. This is actually how it's supposed to go. I mean, if you're in that now, just know that like still keep pushing on that final day because that's when the majority of the sales come in.
And send those emails. Like I talk to my clients and they're like scared to send the emails. And I've kind of like become immune to it, right? Like I'm like, if people are going to unsubscribe from my list, then that's fine because whatever, they weren't going to buy from me or they'll rejoin again in the future when, or they have the option at the bottom to like not get my sales emails this time around, so, I think that I'm sort of immune to people leaving my list now because I know the right people will join, but like sometimes I'll send, 6 emails in the last 48 hours and that like makes people really uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, do you want to make more sales? Right? Like, do you want to sell your thing?
Yeah. Do you want to make sure that someone doesn't miss it? I mean, people say that I think they think it's like a marketing like ploy to say like, I'm sending this extra email because people always email me the next day saying that they missed it. But truly.
But they do.
They do. And people are like, I didn't check my phone or like I missed it or one of them went to spam. You know what I mean? But then the other one didn't. And it's like, that is why we do that.
Yeah.
For kindness.
And for us, like the people, if you're sending out emails, like, I mean, I think it's a little narcissistic to think that other people's lives are revolving around your emails.
So I know. And this is like everyone does that where they're like, they're so in what they're doing. They're like, oh, I already sent an email this week and
I'm annoying
no one else cares. Like no one else even noticed. You're like a blip. If that, and like you have to realize that it's like you said, no one else notices that you've been promoting. Oh my gosh, I'm being so promotional. No one else notices.
No, and if they do, it's probably a good thing because you're in their face and they're making a decision, and everyone has the personal power to make that decision for themselves, right? And you're not forcing anyone to buy anything by sending them an email. They get to choose whether or not they want to buy or not buy, and it's just your job to communicate the value and to help them make that decision whether or not they're the best fit. And so at the end of that, like again, during that program launch, I was still in my day job. So I was doing these like free calls in the evenings and on weekends. And pretty much my fiance at the time, like did not see me. And I was working, like I was hustling during that time that I was, working the business as a side hustle, mornings, lunchtime, evenings, weekends, because I was really adamant about making this thing work. And that was the only time I had. So I think like if you really want something, you'll make the time to do it. And it's not always easy. And that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about with the small list stuff, because it's, sometimes doing the unrequired work.
And I think that's something Megan and I have been talking about is like, and Megan, you have so much more experience with this, but like when you're doing it as a side hustle, what has to be your mindset around that?
Yeah, I side hustled myself until last fall. And so it was a few years of just hustling all the time and taking little work breaks and checking your business email or like brainstorming new topic ideas. So it's hard, but I think you nailed it on the head with if it's important to you, you'll find the time for it. And it's saying no to things. Like my friends at the time pretty much didn't see me. It was like, sorry, I can't go, gotta do work, and it became just, they understood and they respected it and they were happy for me, but it wasn't easy. Like I'd miss birthday parties and things because I had to. So I think you just nailed it with if it's really important to you, you find the time, whether it's because you have a full-time job or you have family obligations or whatever's going on in your personal life. Like if it's important, you'll make it work.
Yeah, totally. And like, I mean, I would literally like plan my social media on Sundays, and then I would send it to an email on my phone, and then I would like be peeing in the bathroom at my corporate job, which
Oh,
is like
yeah.
totally oversharing. And I would post on social media during that time. And then when I would get home in the evening or get off, I would go and like comment on the engagement stuff. But like you make it work. Like there are 5 minutes in your day where you can take that pocket of time to post on social media or to write. You know, I would write in my notes section on my phone or do like an audio post like for my blog, right? So I would get some of this stuff done and out of my head, you know, in these small pockets of time. And then and I was always like very open with my clients in the program as well, that I was working a job, which I think it scares people as well. They're like, what if my clients find out I'm in a job and I can't support them? I'm like, well, only sign up for what you can do and commit to, right? And it was a ton of work when I had that course, because then I was about 2 weeks ahead of my content. I was creating on Saturday, putting everything together and sending it out on Sunday morning. And then throughout the week, I had like some one-on-one calls during lunch break sometimes. I was reviewing their homework in the Facebook group and things like that. So it was definitely hustling. And I lived in Alabama at the time. Megan, it's like funny you say that, like you didn't see your friends and stuff. And I hated living there because I didn't have any friends there. We got relocated there with my corporate job, and there was not really anything to do. And I was like, oh, this is why I was here for this period of my life, because I needed like the nothingness to do to create this business so effectively.
That is so funny that you said that. We actually, the reason I started Femtrepreneur was because my boyfriend and I, we had been renovating the vintage trailers, but through that we had gotten a client that was like, I want you to renovate our house to be like really 50s. And so we were like living in this empty beach house for like 7 months in the winter. This is over the winter on an island where there's like no people, like a totally a vacation spot. So there's like no people. And they were like, oh, well, we want the renovations done when it's off season. It's like the winter, there's no one there. It was the loneliest and most depressing, awful time.
Yep.
But in that like darkness, I was like, I have nothing to do. I have to do something. And that's when I started Femtrepreneur. And I had a lot of like, just like, not that I had like so much time, but I was running another, you know, the camper business at the time, that camper blog. But I was like, there's nothing, I have no friends. Like there's no, I can't talk to anyone. Like we're just sequestered in this house, like surrounded by snow. Like what are we going to do? And it really did. Like it was awful at the time. It was one of the worst depressive episodes of my life, but it was also where I was like, well, might as well start something new.
That is like exactly how
that's so funny you said that.
It happened, because I couldn't even see it at the moment until someone asked me when I was moving. We were moving here, which we're in St. Pete, Florida now. And this was like, we were so excited to like move to civilization and like have friends and like go to local breweries and coffee shops and have things to do. Like we were so excited. And someone asked me, they said like, well, what can you be, grateful for about Alabama? And I was like, nothing. I was like, I don't even understand that question. And it took me a little while to like reflect on it, because I was like such in that darkness of like, I have to get out of here. Like I hate it here.
Yeah.
Not that it was like the people there were fine. Like they were really nice, but honestly, it was not where we wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I you know, had like a day of thinking on that question. I was like, oh, like I am so grateful for the nothingness, because out of that came, I didn't have to feel guilty or feel pulled in different directions, because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, going through that period where you're like, I miss my friends. Like I can't, like I literally have no friends. Like I can't believe I made this choice. Like what did I do? And realizing that if you weren't in that position, you probably would have just spent every Friday night out and, you know, out at a party or something, or, you know, I mean, I used to, you know, waste all sorts of time. So, but yeah, I think that's awesome. And I love that question in general. Like, what can you be grateful for about fill in the blank? Something that really sucked.
Something that really sucked too. Yeah. Cause you know, it might take you a while to figure it out, but usually there's some lesson, there's something that is supposed to come out of this. And if you can't find it, then you're probably not looking hard enough. Right.
Yeah. That's gonna be a quote we pull out. What can you be grateful for about your Alabama? Whatever Alabama was for you.
Yeah,
um,
Alabama.
so let's talk about some of the crazy, amazing things that you've been able to do with a tiny list at all different kind of levels. You have some awesome case studies and stories for us about how you've leveraged a small email list at different stages of your business. I want to talk about some of those case studies, some of those like numbers, like what was the list, what was the promotion you did, and how much did it earn. I want us to inspire all of our friends who are listening with small email lists and talk about like, the mindset, like how do you get over that stuff? Like you kind of shared all these things with me about why a small list can actually be an advantage.
Yeah.
And I want to know about those things. So first tell us about some of the results so we can start drooling, and then let us in on the sort of behind the scenes.
Beautiful. So first launch, obviously we just talked about, was 234 subscribers, 15 people enrolled, $15,000, right? So
Amazing.
That's a great thing to get you started. I was like, oh, this business is going to work.
That's enough to quit your job. I mean, I think that's
Right.
where a lot of people are like, how much do I need to make? A lot of our own students tell us that what they would need to make in order to quit would be like $5,000 to $10,000 in order to feel comfortable leaving their job for having a few months of expenses saved up.
Yep. I mean, and that was more than I was making a month in my corporate job.
Yeah.
By far. For the 2 months that I was going to be teaching the program, so even if we split it in half, let's just say it was $7,500 per month. That's great money. And so it gave me the confidence that I needed to be like, oh, this thing is going to work. And then it can only grow from there, right? If I continue to apply the things that I'm doing. Some of the other things were a list of about, what did we have for one of my client launches had, I think 573, and she made over $10,000. So she had like a fully booked program that she launched. And then even with that small list, she continues to she also has a one-on-one. So she has a course and a one-on-one. And a lot of people think, oh, you have to have, a huge list to have 10K months. She's running her business like consistent 10K months off of a list that is under 1,000 people.
Amazing.
So that was huge. And then one that was about 750 people, and she made over $15,000 as well. And she was selling a program to artists, which is also sometimes very hard to sell higher price programs to artists who aren't as willing to invest in themselves sometimes. So all those things like coming from smaller lists. Then I had a program where I segmented my email list. I sold to about 400 people. I sold 64 of the program, and it was an affiliate launch. So I sold 64 and made $64,000 off of that 400 person list.
That's amazing.
Great.
That's insane. Pretty sure that's unheard of.
Even that, like,
I don't know about that. Like, that's like a ratio I've like never heard. It's amazing. And this was a program that you were an affiliate for, right? So you didn't have 10 other affiliates promoting you.
Right. I was an affiliate for someone else's program, right? So even if so I've seen a lot of people who, they spend a ton of time, either growing their list or building their audience, and then they're like, oh, I don't even have a product to sell. Well, what if you affiliated for someone else and sold their product to give you the time and the space to create your own that you felt really good about, right? So that's something that you can do as well. And this was a program that I had gone through. I actually wasn't even going to affiliate for them at this time. I was like, oh, we just launched something. Let's wait till December. And then I was like, you know what? Let's just do it, because I knew that my audience would be really into this. And it was like, I only affiliate for things that I like really, really believe in. That's, I need my list to continue to trust me. So that's huge. And so we segmented the list, and we had 400 people sign up for the free series that he was offering. And then from there, we had 64 people sign up, and I was his number 2 affiliate with a pretty small list. And he was like, not expecting that. He was like, what did you do? He's like, I've never seen numbers like this before. And I was like, oh, just, my little list leverage stuff. Like, he's like,
so do you think it's like, what did you, I mean, there's many factors, but like, what is one of the things that you think you did that helps that many conversions happen and helps people trust you enough and like go, what are some of the things that you think you did that did actually help that?
Yeah. So some of the things that I would tell people with a small list to help them sell more and make more money with that small list is you have to get really engaged with those people. Like if you do not have an engaged and connected list, you will not make money. And that does not matter how big or small your list is, right? If you cannot sell to a small list, the odds are you will not be able to sell to a big list. So don't keep tricking yourself and thinking, I just need to grow my list and then I'll be able to sell these things. And I'm like, well, if you can't sell to a small list and really engage them, then it's actually going to be much harder for you to do it once it gets bigger, because you have an opportunity with a small list to get really connected to people, to really know them. You're much more flexible. You have a lot more bandwidth.
Mhm.
And I think that people just don't use it, right? So the person who has 100,000 people on their list, you cannot know every single person or really understand their business or know their names. And when you have a small list, you can, right? So leverage that. Like that's your point of leverage. This is not a limitation to have a small list. It can be a point of leverage if you're willing to do the work and go above and beyond for these people and show them that you really do want to get to know them as humans. So for example, like with that affiliate launch that I did, of those 400 people that signed up for the video series, I did send them some automated emails, right? I definitely used an automated email sequence, but I went above and beyond and then also sent them an individual email. Like, yes, I'm serious. I sent out over 300 emails to these people and said, hey, Mariah, like, I know that you signed up for so-and-so's free video series. These were some of the things that these were my biggest takeaways. I would love to hear, like, what were your biggest takeaways for Femtrepreneur? So I made it specific enough that they knew it was not an automated email, and just ask them to, share with me their biggest takeaway and what questions did they have about the free video series or about the program itself.
That's
Now,
awesome.
did everyone respond? No, but it turned people who were maybe on the fence or not really sure, or who maybe were going to buy through another affiliate, they wanted to buy through me now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they knew that I knew their name, I knew their business, I knew like everything, about the video series that they loved and what their concerns were. So like really listening to them, and giving them really good feedback. So there were certain people that I was like, no, it's not the program for you. Right. And that develops even more trust. So even though they might not buy from me now, they might in the future, because they're like, oh, Adrienne's going to tell me the honest truth. And I think that's something that is so key at any stage of your business, but like really being honest with your people. So during the affiliate launch, I told them the good, the bad, the ugly. I was like, here's what I liked about this program. Here's what I did not like about this program. And here's how, as a bonus partner, I can help you overcome that part that I didn't like.
Yeah, like what was missing. This is such a good point. So like, I mean, and this isn't something that necessarily everyone's going to do, but when you're thinking about incorporating, being a launch partner for other courses into your business model, it sounds like, that's such a point right there. That's like really going to help you be an effective affiliate. And that launch is huge for your business. I mean, that is like huge. And so in order to have that kind of like cash flow for a program that you don't have to run and you don't have to deal with the customer service for, and you don't have to make, that's amazing. So you offered like a special bonus to help people additionally, which is so smart.
Yeah. And so from the I think that a lot of affiliate partners aren't honest because they're just trying to make money. Some of them like that have maybe never even like fully gone through the program, or like they're just, they're like, oh, I can make some quick money here. But I just really approach an affiliate launch as if it was my own launch.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, this is a good program, but here's the things that tripped me up when I was taking it. Here's the things that I would do differently. And here's how I knew that my specific expertise could also be a complement to the program. And so I positioned it that way as well. So you really have to know your expertise. And this comes, not just with an affiliate launch, but with your own launch, right? Like, why is working with you going to be the best? And if you don't believe that, then you can't sell it. Like you have to truly believe that your course or your program for that specific person is going to be the best way for them to get results. And if you're not sold on yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to sell yourself onto other people. And so I had the same approach with the affiliate launch. Like, here's what worked, here's what didn't work. And here's who it's for and who it's not for. And people, I have a ton of like repeat customers and people that continue to buy from me because they know that I'm telling them the truth and that I'm committed to them getting results, and I know their business. And that's something that you can do with a small list, is like really get to know your people, get on the phone with them, get them to hit reply on the email, like really get them like anything you can do to get them more engaged is going to increase your sales.
I used to literally send out, like when my list was like 100 to 200 people, I would send out, for Femtrepreneur, and I was just starting out, I would send out these emails that were like Friday night. Like these weren't like my like blog post of the week or like something important. Friday night, I would just be like, it was kind of like a mass text to me. I would just be like, hey guys, like it's Friday.
Who's around?
I'm working. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm bored and like I'm just like typing up a blog post or like working on something, like, hit reply and let me know what you're up to. It's Friday and we're all like working on our business, so might as well like chat a little bit. And it was just like, it's like you said, like I can't do that with 25,000 subscribers, but when I had 200 subscribers, I could literally be like, what are you guys doing? Like, let's talk. And I could email them back. And, if 25 people respond, I can talk to them and really get, and they just appreciate that. And it's so nice.
Yeah. And so when you have that little list, right, like you have the opportunity to not only ask for people to engage with you, but then to thoughtfully reply when they do.
Right.
Whereas, on the 25,000 person list or the 100,000 person list or even the 10,000 person list, your bandwidth gets a little, you're getting spread thin there when you're asking them to press reply and they actually are.
Yes.
It can be really overwhelming because you're like, oh my God, I have to respond to all these emails and I want to talk to all these people, but I can't. And there are ways to approach that as your list grows. But when your list is small, not only getting them to hit reply, or if you have a Facebook group, getting them to engage there with you, or, whatever social media that you're most active on, like getting them to engage with you as if you're at a cocktail party or you're hanging on the couch, and thoughtfully respond to them. So take the time to not just give them a, hey, that's great, and then hit send, but really give them some thought put into that email and ask them more questions, continue the conversation. Because when you make that engagement, like I have people that, and don't give up on them, right? This is another point. Like I have people that have been with me from day one who never bought anything from me. I continued to engage with them. I continued to serve them. I continued to answer their questions and give them feedback and send them a podcast when I thought it might be helpful for them. And then they turn around a year and a half later and buy my highest price program.
Yep.
Never bought a
it's
thing
not
from me
like
before.
A quick sale. And I think people will be like, I didn't do a lot on my first launch, or like, this is taking a long time to pick up. And it's like, there are people on your list who will be mulling over some of your offers for a year or longer. And when they join, they're going all in. Yep. But it's like you said, it's not necessarily like easy for everyone to take that leap, and you don't know what their situation or timing is. But we've seen that same thing. And I think that's so powerful to know that someone, don't just be like, oh, you haven't bought from me, like, bang,
write them off.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's,
Well, I see that happen a lot, and people are like, well, those aren't your people. I'm like, well, what if those are your people and they just need more time?
Yeah. They're still getting like, saving up.
Those are still your people, right? Yeah. And I guarantee you, Mariah, that like the people that you would send those emails to on Friday night, like they're still on your list and they are raving fans of yours. And
they absolutely are.
And you remember them, right? So it's like when you do that in the beginning,
I remember everyone. Like I think your first 1K first class was like 150 people. I know everyone's name in business. Yes. Like I'm just like very. It's like it's a small group. Now we have like 4,000 students or something. But at the time when it was 150 people, I was like, I can know all of your names and websites.
I love that. Right. And because of you doing that when it was smaller, then it carries on as it grows. Whereas if you're just waiting until you have this big list to launch something, or waiting to have this big list to engage with them, like it's not going to work, right? Like you have to really build that into your self and into the process from day one, because it is an advantage. I truly think that you have an advantage. So the first thing is like flipping your mindset around it, right? Like knowing that, oh, I have this little list. I can use this as a leverage point. This is not a limitation. And once you start thinking differently about that, you're going to get more creative with how you can connect with them and how you can serve them, how you can give more to them at this level. Whereas once your list grows, which is you're living in the not the here and now, you're living in the then and there.
Yeah.
Right? Like live in the here and now and be excited for what you've got now, because you don't know what it's like when you have a really big list, and it might be much harder and you have no idea, right? So engage them now, use this as a leverage point, not a limitation. And it's all starting like with how you think about it, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
I
mean,
love all of this. I feel like I wish I could have heard all of this back when I first started my business and taken more advantage of the smaller size, because I may not have nearly as large as the entrepreneur does, but I have my own little list and it's bigger. And now I've already hit the point where I don't have a team, and it's like I can't answer every email, I can't answer every tech support question I get, and it's hard. And I almost feel like I wish I could go back and like make more, like take more advantage of it.
Take more advantage of it.
Yeah, like build. Not that I was ignoring them, but I think I was at the point where it was like, I want to build my list, I want to get bigger, and it was like, I really could have like taken advantage and not just looked ahead. Like I could have really thrived more in the moment.
That applies to everything.
Well, and that's something, we have so many students or just people in our community that this is the number one question, the number one struggle. How do I grow my list? Like, where do I find them? Like, that's what's holding them back. And they don't want to launch until they have X number of people on their list, so they think they can make X number of sales. And I think that this is such a refreshing perspective for them, that I think this is going to be such an amazing, I'm excited for everyone to hear it when it goes live, because I think this is something we can send people to regularly when they feel like they're struggling with this. Because I think the key, though, is like what you said, you have to put in the extra work. Like just sending the automated emails isn't necessarily enough to really leverage the small list.
Yeah, and like when people, my clients or people in my audience, they're like, what else can I do during this launch? I've sent out my emails. I'm like, how many people are on your list? 220. I'm like, all right, get to writing. I want you to go and send each of them an email, see if they'll get on the phone with you. And they're like, what? I can't do that. I'm like, why not?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Do you want to sell this program? Right?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to sell this thing? Do you want to make sure that the right people find out about it and that you help them make the right decision, right? Yeah. Get on the phone with them. You have the opportunity. You can offer, and I tell one of my clients this, who's like just starting to build her list in her community. And she was like, I really want to get to know people as they join my Facebook group. And I was like, well, every single person that joins, invite them to get on a call with you. Coffee chat.
10
Not
minutes,
selling,
15 minutes. Just like, hey.
Getting to know you. Yep. Because those relationships are going to be so much stronger, and you're going to have this like insider information about like what these people want, what they're struggling with. You're going to be able to create things that are like geared directly towards them, and they're going to know it because they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Mariah created that just for me. I remember our conversation.
Like she's using something I said in our conversation. Like this is so awesome. And like speaking from experience, like guys, do that while you can, because we struggle every day with like honestly, this is something we talk about in maybe every single team meeting we have, is like, how can I, like, as our audience gets so big, like how can I still connect with people on an individual level? And it is so hard. Like we just started a Facebook group, so that's a really good step in the right direction. But honestly, by the time my email list was as big as it is now, I was just like, and my email list isn't like enormous. I don't have 100,000 people. I have like 23,000 people or whatever. But like, I was feeling like this is a one-way conversation and I don't like it. Like this this doesn't feel good. We used to all talk. Like I used to know every single person that showed up. Yeah, we used to be really good friends. I used to know you when you showed up to a webinar. I would look and see everyone who registered and be like, oh good, like Sarah's going to be there on Friday. Like I'll see her. Like and it's hard. And I feel like that's something that it gets harder. Like you said, like you might look at someone with a huge list and be like, they're so lucky. Like, I just want that. But you don't know, like they might feel really disconnected from their community. They might feel like they might feel overwhelmed by like how to serve that many people. They might be overwhelmed. I know I have like a lot of stuff to work work through with how overwhelmed I feel by the amount of personal emails that come into our inbox that are directed at me, and I can't possibly respond to like 300 personal emails every single day, but it doesn't matter. It still makes me feel like a pressure. Like I still feel like I should, or I want to. And it's like, you don't, do that stuff while you can, because it's not, eventually you won't always be able to, and it'll be something that you worry about and think about and are trying to figure out, the best way to do it. Trust me,
God,
I know.
I know too. And mine is not anywhere close to yours. I have about 6,000 people on my list right now. And yesterday I sent out an email, and my assistant, now she gets the emails that when people hit reply.
Yeah.
And that was like a big thing for me to let go of, was to give that email address over to someone else. Like when someone hits reply, someone else gets it. And it's like our support email gets it. And so yesterday she like pinged me in our project management system, and she was like, everyone loves your email. They're just responding like crazy. And I'm like, send me all the emails. I want to respond. And so I made her like forward me all the emails, because I totally get it, Mariah. And I know that like that's a struggle that I will continue to have, because you want to be so high touch, and it's going to get harder and harder, and you're going to have more and more personal boundaries. But in the beginning, just remove those personal boundaries and go crazy. Let them go and connect with these people, because you can make great money with a really small list. People will know you, like you, trust you. You just have to do the unrequired work and really get people engaged with you and get them on the phone with you, and write great subject lines, because you need them to open their emails. And I think that you can, like, I've made multiple six figures with a pretty small email list, right?
Yeah,
so
that's amazing. You said 6,000 people and you've made multiple six figures. That's like
we're almost gonna hit
amazing.
Like, almost 500,000 this year. So that's
holy shit, congratulations.
Yeah, so like that's great money from a 6,000 person list. And last year,
crazy.
No, and I think you're crazy, right? So there's like mutual admiration.
Yeah, like I just think like, I mean, I'm like always like doing math and stuff, but that is amazing. Like we didn't hit those numbers until we had like 10,000 people on our list. And so with almost, a little more than half, that is amazing. It's just awesome. Because they fucking love you.
Because I have a lot of repeat buyers. I do some one-on-one work, so that does bring in like higher dollar programs, right? But you can make great money with a small list, and don't think that you have to wait to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Just be a little naive with it, because you're not average, right? So don't look at average conversion rates, because I've also seen it the other way, right? Like where people wait, they're not engaging with their list when it's small, and then they expect to have this like huge launch, and then it flops
because of the numbers.
Yeah.
They just think like, oh, this many people means I will automatically make $100,000. And it's like, oh no.
And they've spent like, tons of money on the launch, and it's a real blow to their confidence as well. And I've seen people like really need to like pick up their launch panties and put them back on, because it like destroys them after they think something is going to happen and then it doesn't. And so it's like, stop waiting, stop trying to make everything perfect. Like do the pre-validating by pre-selling something before you create it. To your small list, get them on the phone.
Just like we were talking about, like Megan and I were saying, like make the mistakes when you have 200 people on your list and 10 people enroll.
Yep.
Not like do that for your first launch and make those mistakes and learn from everything. Not when you have 10,000 people on your list and you're hoping that, 1,000 of them enroll and it's going to be just great. Like,
and what if 1,000?
That's awful.
And what if 1,000 people do enroll and then the program is not up to par? You could destroy your business.
Your whole business is done.
So it's like, use that small list to, get the cash flow that you need to keep the business going, right? And to keep the business growing and scaling, and engage those people while it's small, while you still can, while you have the bandwidth to do so. Because you could, if you can't sell to a small list and engage with them, then it's going to be really hard and sort of pointless to do it with a big one.
I think that's my new phrase, like my new favorite line, is because I just think it's so true. Like if you're not making any sales with your small list, what do you think is going to change when there's
a conversion rate of 0 isn't going to go up when like you have more people. Like that's ridiculous. And like you said, like it's not a race. I think that is like, to me, I'm really getting this from you, Adrienne, is like, it is not a race to 10,000 subscribers so that you can launch. It is not a race to 5,000 subscribers. It is not a race to get the most so that you can make the most. It is like a step ladder. It's like one tiny step and increment at a time. And anyone who went from zero, like I said this in a different podcast episode, if I had not had those small launches in the beginning with a small list, and if I had magically, you know, gone from zero to a $200,000 launch or something crazy like that, it would have destroyed both me and my business
at that point. It wasn't
not
sustainable.
Ready for that. Exactly. I would not have known what to do. I would not have had the capacity to take care of that many people at a time. Like it has to grow in that like organic way, or else you as a business owner and your company is going to crumble under that pressure that you didn't build up to.
Yeah. I mean, if you scale that quickly, like you said, you probably, number one, don't have the infrastructure to support it.
Yep. That was the issue we had that was like us last year. We're just like,
what are we going to do?
So much money, and we do not have any systems in place, and we have no infrastructure, and we have no, I don't even know what's going. Like it was just, you know, and it's so stressful. It's not a fun. It's not like, oh, you know, sad. I know it sounds like, oh,
sad
so
Mariah,
but like it was, you know, it makes you almost think like, what should I even be doing this? Because it's. I feel so stressed and so much pressure. So,
and you can create those raving fans when you have that small group, and those raving fans will go be your walking billboards for your business. They're going to go tell other people about you. So I always tell people, like, you need to undercharge, over deliver, like be the person that gives them way more than they ever expected. And when you have a small list, you can do that both in your free and your paid offers. So leverage that.
This is awesome. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up, but I want to ask you a couple more questions as we kind of get to the end of this. And this has been so valuable and like inspiring, and like seriously, congratulations on your amazing growth and in like less than 2 years. Like this is crazy. So first of all, what are you struggling with personally right now? Like what's something that you're about to make $500,000 this year. You have 6,000 people on your list. Like everything is going rosy, but what is something that you still struggle with?
I would say it's definitely the personal boundaries. Like personal boundaries is showing up for me again and again and again, like over the past couple months, because I've had to, like, as my audience grows, as my commitments grow, as my opportunities grow, I've had to be even more, strict with myself. It's not with anyone else. It's with myself, because I'm the one who like wants to reply to everyone's email, and my team's like, stop it. Like you're killing yourself. You're going to destroy your relationship. You're going to, I'm getting married in a few weeks, and so that's
Megan
cool
just
too.
Got married.
Oh, congrats, right? And so everyone wants to like put this additional stress and pressure on you about the wedding, and I'm like, whatever, we'll be fine.
It was hard. I mean,
I fell apart during. I was like,
rough.
My brain can't do anything right now.
I know. So like really being able to say no to things and understand like what's my main focus right now. Okay, this is a great opportunity, but it needs to be put on hold. Or, hey, I really, I have this program, which is, it's got 100 people in it. And yeah, I really do want to respond to every single thing that they say, but I can't. Or my list, they hit reply and I want to respond to everyone, but I can't, right? So you can't be everything to everyone and be the person you want to be, right? Yeah. Like I'm always working on like, how do I become my best self? Well, it's not spreading myself that thin, and it has to start with me like creating those personal boundaries.
And like not feeling guilty about it. I feel like there's like, for me, there's this constant like headbutting of how can I serve millions of women, which requires me to not have a lot of one-on-one interaction with anyone. And I want to help millions of women versus like, how can I have that personal connection
that, like,
to my
deeper,
audience? And it's like, how can I do both? And I know it's like the higher purpose is to like
serve
help
more,
as many people as possible. Like I have to help them, but it's like, it becomes like a personal crisis.
Totally. And it's exhausting sometimes, right? And it's like really just you understanding your bandwidth and like what you can and can't do. And also understanding, because, we all get the emails of, I want a refund, or you didn't respond to my post, or, I hate the way you did this. And I think no matter who you like, if you're not a sociopath or whatever, like you're going to be upset by those things because we all want to be liked at some level.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wait, but let me tell you like why I do it the way I do it, right? Or let me solve your problem for you. And I can't do that with the amount of people. And so that's like definitely been hard for me to set those boundaries and be okay with it. Be okay with the fact that I can't help everyone that I want to at the level that I want to, or that they want to, right?
Yeah.
That they want me to for free or
right. Absolutely.
So, I mean, the people that pay me allow me to deliver content for free. Like they're basically paying for me to be able to deliver free content. So I think that it's boundaries has been like the one really hard thing.
I get that. I'm glad we talked about that. That's like something it's real. The struggle is real. So what do you think, as we wrap this up, what do you think is, and I love to hear people's predictions because I think it's fun. What do you think is going to be the sort of next trend, or where do you think sort of this online business courses, programs, this whole sort of industry is going, or how do you see things like changing in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so I see this interesting thing happening where people are buying lots of things but not completing lots of things, and that becomes a challenge not only for the people that are enrolling in the courses because then they don't want to join another course, or they're not getting the results that they want and they think it's because of the course itself, but it's not. It's not that the course was bad, it's that you didn't complete the course, right?
Yeah.
And then it puts like this negative connotation on courses in general, as well as for the course providers, the teachers in these courses, they're feeling like, how do I get my people better results if they're not showing up? Like,
yes.
And so then I see people, even like some of my clients.
This is so relevant.
Yeah, like some of my clients who are like, I refuse to do courses. I'm only doing one-on-one work, which means that they stagnate their own growth because they're not scalable at that point, right? So I'm like, the only way for you to grow, like you're not going to grow more hours in the day. You're going to have to increase your prices. That's the only way to grow your business. If you're not willing to do something that's more scalable, which is totally fine. That's a choice that they can make. But I never want someone to say, I am not going to do a course because courses don't work. I'm like, that's not true. People can get results from courses. And I see the trend going towards more live stuff, like a 1-day live workshop for your course. Or maybe there's like 4 of these days throughout a 4-month period where you're actually implementing with people to get them to completion versus leaving them to their own devices. And then they could have the replays or something as well, where you could like edit it up into smaller chunks. But I see a lot of I love doing live workshops because I get my people there. But I also want them to implement, and I see that being a way that you could do that still virtually. You could do it in person if you wanted, but I think you could still do it virtually as like live workshop hours or days. And I see I see the trend maybe going that way.
Even a digital product, like a traditional, 4-module course leading up to a live event. And it's like, if you didn't get your work done for modules 1 through 4, by the time we meet live, you're going to be sad.
And to that point, I think that the other thing, which we've implemented in our membership program, is gamifying things, right? So like you can't unlock the next thing that you want until you complete this, right? Or you get, like, if you do module 1, 2, and 3, then you win a certain number of stars. Or if you join the live Q&A call, or if you send me your homework or whatever it is, you send me the work, you have the potential to win a one-on-one call with me. So they're being rewarded for doing the work, and like everyone loves like gamifying stuff. So I think like gamifying the system and gamifying the way people interact with your programs, I think is going to be key.
That's such a good idea.
That's a really good idea. I'm like taking mental note because that's one of the things that like you said, all course creators struggle with is like, why doesn't everyone get that result that they paid for? Like, or why aren't people showing up? Why aren't people showing up? They paid for a course. They want so badly to have the result, but why aren't they watching the videos? Why aren't they doing the work? And why aren't they showing up at the live calls? And I think that's such it's, maybe they need that little extra push. And I think that's something we can definitely learn from.
Yeah, and one of the other like last little tidbit, one of the strategies that Jill Stanton from Screw the 9 to 5 shared. We love her. I love her too. She shared with me is that they're actually retargeting with Facebook ads the people in their programs.
This is what we talked about in Las Vegas when we hung out, and I was like, that's brilliant.
Oh, yeah, I told you that, remember? Because I
Yeah.
had just got off the phone with Jill, like, that day, and she told me that she's retargeting people that are in her program to get them to come and do the work, right? So it's like, where are they? They're on Facebook. They forgot to go do the module, or, oh, you're doing a live Q&A call today inside the program. Well, put it in their news feed. It only costs like minimal because you already have the list. You're not targeting cold traffic. Right. You're just retargeting the list, getting them to come engage, because that's how you can keep people, you know, if it's a membership site, you're going to retain them. And if it's a course or program, you're going to get them results if they come and do the work. We need them to do the work. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think, like you said, it was like she was spending like $20 a month. They're like,
it was like 12.
Like $12 a month on retargeting ads, which are cheaper, just to be like, remember, you're on like module 2 comes out today. Like, make sure you do your homework, and we're going to have a call about it on Friday. So you want to be prepared, and like just giving them those little, I love that idea. It costs almost nothing, and it sounds so effective. I definitely am excited to try that in our own business. That's awesome. So tell us, like, you know, what's the next thing that is coming out for you? Pimp out your stuff. Tell us what is next for you that you want us to check out, and also, like, you know, where we can find you. And I know you said you had a freebie for us.
I do. Pimp your, I feel like I'm about to like pimp my ride. Do you remember that show?
Yes, I do.
So coming up for me, I'm doing like lots of live retreats and stuff like that, just because I'm like really loving like connecting with people in person. And so that's on the forefront, as well as I'm working on Little List Leverage, the course. So
that's
this
gonna be
is
awesome.
like, I just want to talk to people about this and see if, you know, I'm pre-validating here, like seeing if this is something that people want and that they're interested in. And I have, yes, a free cheat sheet, which is going to give them 10 steps, 10 ideas to sell out their program, even with a small list. And they can go to adriennedorison.com/thefemshow.
Awesome. Thank you so much for offering that to our audience, because like we said, like, I think Little List Leverage is consider it validated from my personal perspective.
We validate
it. I love it. People need it. People need not only the mindset and the confidence, but also like all of your strategies for actually like how to make a profit with a tiny list. And that is a skill that so many people need. And I just can't wait to see, you know, the results that your students and clients get. They're already amazing, but I can't wait to see this new class of people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne, so much for your time. This was incredibly valuable and inspiring, and like everything about this. I can't wait to listen to this again. I feel like I have more things to absorb.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. It was super fun. I love chatting, and I love chatting small lists. So I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. And everyone, go check out adriennedorison.com and check out Adrienne's podcast, School of Self-Mastery, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adrienne.
You are welcome. Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Oh my gosh, that was great.
Go to thefemshow.com/7 for show notes for this episode, and find the links to all of the resources we mentioned, including the link to Adrienne's free cheat sheet.
And if you like this episode, please subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes and leave a rating and a review. It might seem small, but reviews make a really big impact, and they help us get more amazing guests for you and keep bringing you the best strategies every single week for free. Don't forget to go to thefemshow.com to submit your questions for us if you want us to answer one of your questions. And if you want to discuss this episode with us and a whole community of awesome, ambitious entrepreneurs, make sure that you join our free Facebook group at thefemshow.com/community.